Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is bombing at the box office because, of course, it is. This movie was never going to do well financially, and it is contributing to what is one of the worst Memorial Day weekend box office takes in a long time. It's the worst in decades, according to Variety, which has the details, and we'll get into that shortly. But I'm recording this video on Memorial Day, and over this weekend, Hollywood had two movies that it was really hoping would do well. One of them is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which is essentially a Mad Max movie with no Mad Max in it. And the other is Garfield, and that's the animated movie about the comic strip cat. So let's just get right into this article. Box office. Furiosa just barely beats the Garfield movie in disastrous Memorial Day weekend, the worst in decades. Garfield has another reason to hate Mondays. In a box office nail-biter, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, narrowly emerged victorious over the Garfield movie on North American charts. On Sunday, Warner Brothers and Sony both claimed its own movie ranked number one with roughly $25 million over the weekend and an estimated $31 million through the Memorial Day holiday on Monday. With Monday's estimates, Furiosa ended up generating $26.2 million over the weekend and $32 million for the 4 days. Garfield was shockingly close behind with $24 million over the weekend and $31.1 million over the 4 days. And it continues, no matter the final order, it's the worst Memorial Day weekend in nearly 3 decades, excluding 2020 when theaters were entirely closed due to the coof. Ouch. You know, I'm sorry that Mr. George Miller's new film is doing terribly, but of course it is. It was never, ever going to be a success. You know, I find it really funny that before the opening weekend for Furiosa was even complete, places like IGN were printing puff pieces about this movie with headlines like, Furiosa, the Mad Max movies don't need Mad Max anymore. Well, you know what, IGN? I am delighted that you think that, because you know what? If this terrible box office taking here is any indication, that is a pretty good sign that the Mad Max movies need the character that they're named after. Now, full disclosure, I have not seen Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I've heard that it's a pretty good action film, which is not really surprising. George Miller's very, very good at directing action, and he's the creator of the whole Mad Max world. But the reason why I thought this movie would never do well is because Furiosa is just not that popular of a character. I know Mad Max Fury Road was very well liked when it came out. I'm actually not a big fan of that movie. I prefer the first 3 Mad Max movies with Mel Gibson, but I'm definitely in the minority. That movie was very well liked when it came out. But despite that, the character of Furiosa is not one that's really left a deep cultural footprint. You know, not a household name, and really not a character that I think can hold an entire movie, even though she did take a lot of screen time away from Mad Max in Fury Road. So I don't know what George Miller was thinking when he decided to make a prequel about Furiosa, other than the fact that he's a filmmaker and he wanted to do that. When this movie was greenlit, I thought this is going to fail terribly, and sure enough, that's exactly what it's done. But even if Furiosa were a bigger, more popular movie character that could successfully carry a movie at the box office, well, in this movie, she's not played by the original actress. She's played by Anya Taylor-Joy here, and in Fury Road, it was Charlize Theron. So whatever number of Furiosa fans that there are, I don't know how many of them would be interested in going to see that character if it's not played by the original actress. I would imagine that would impact the box office some. But really, I think this movie was doomed to fail because it's a Mad Max movie with no Mad Max. I think a 5th Mad Max movie could have possibly done well at the box office, possibly led by Tom Hardy. But I will maintain that the most successful possible Mad Max movie that you could make at this juncture is one that stars a grizzled old Mad Max played by Mel Gibson. Because when most people hear the name Mad Max, who do they think of? They think of Mel Gibson. And most of the people that went to go see Furiosa were older males, but I guess not enough of them to make this movie a success. If you made a new Mad Max movie starring the original actor, I think a lot more of that target demographic would show up because, like him or not, Mel Gibson is Mad Max.